everyone, and welcome to Time and Money Mastery. We are your co-hosts. I'm Indiana.
And I'm Sam. Before we dive in, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on any of our episodes. Now, let's get started. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Time and Money Mastery. I am your co-host Sam, and today I am joined with mindset coach Danielle. Danielle, tell us a little bit about you and what you do. We're so excited to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. So yes, I am a mindset coach and a yoga teacher. And what I really do is I help women step into their most empowered selves. So really step into their confidence, release those limiting beliefs, and create balance in their life between that action and that being state for really that ultimate success and happiness.
I love that so much. And we're definitely going to talk a little bit about the balance between action and the being state, because it's something that me, as well as an entrepreneur, I definitely feel like I'm kind of stuck in a bit of a storm trying to find that balance. But let's tell our listeners a little bit about your journey. So I know, since we're friends, that you went from engineer to entrepreneur. You had a bunch of twists and turns around in your journey. Tell us a little bit about that journey and why you decided to make that shift.
Yes. So I majored in mechanical engineering. I even got my master's degree. And then I worked as an engineer for about 5 years. But through my life, I had undergone so much stress and so much anxiety to the point that it was basically almost crippling. And I ended up, yoga helped me so much get past it. And I got some very vocal dogs.
No, you're fine.
And so yoga, right? Yoga helps me overcome it and release that stress, release that anxiety, and step into my most empowered self. And so as I'm doing this yoga and as I'm transforming, I'm also doing a bunch of self-growth practices. I'm like, you know what? Like, I don't feel like my job is fulfilling, or I am creating that much of an impact on people besides like 0.00001% of people. And I'm like, I don't feel fulfilled with what I do. I feel like there's a lack of creativity, and I want to do something that's actually going to impact people, something that I'm excited to wake up to, something that will give me freedom in my own day to live how I want to live. Because I was not a cubicle person. Absolutely not. So I just looked at what was in front of me, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to enroll in yoga teacher training. And that's the first step. Like, I'm going to enroll in it. And I'm just kept visualizing myself leaving corporate. And I ended up going into like a health and wellness network marketing company for a bit. I dove into my yoga, got my certification, started teaching. Eventually I was able to quit my job, which is so exciting. And then throughout that journey, I ended up falling in love with coaching. I had hired my first coach, and I was like, you know, this is what I've been wanting to do. And after that, I immersed myself in so many self-growth programs, so many different coaches, and became a mindset coach. And I absolutely love working with women on that deeper level, one-on-one, and then leading group programs, workshops, all that fun stuff.
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, congratulations. I don't know if I've ever said that to you, but congratulations on getting to where you are. It sounds like you've really found your bliss. And when you talk about coaching and yoga, you can hear in your voice just how excited you are. So that is amazing. And I have no doubt that you're making an incredible impact, and you'll continue to make an incredible impact. What really strikes me about your story is that, you know, there were so many different things you tried before you got to a place where you're like, yep, I'm ready to leave corporate. So I don't know about our listeners, but for me personally, when I left school, I did the traditional, let's after high school, go into university, get your bachelor's degree, then get your master's degree, and then go to work full time. And really the master's degree was kind of like me prolonging the need to go into full-time work anyway, right? It's sort of like, I like learning. Maybe I'll just hang out and be not an adult for a few more years. But what's interesting is that through all of these twists and turns, you ended up exactly where you were meant to be. And so I guess my question to you is, was there any point in that journey where you thought, oh, no, this is too crazy. It is not worth it. I need to just stick to the path that society is telling me is the right path? Or did you already know in your heart that this is something you had to do?
I knew in my heart this was something that I had to do, but I did have a lot of fear. Like, it wasn't like, I know this is what I'm going to do, and everything is just rainbows and butterflies.
Yeah.
It was like, I had fear, I had doubts, I had, what will people think? What if I can't make it? What if I don't succeed? What will, all of these different things, all of these thoughts and doubts coming in. But it was just like that purpose that what was in my heart of what I really desired to do just won out every single time. Cause it was like, well, if not this, then, then what? Like, am I just going to live my life feeling unfulfilled and unhappy where I'm at? Or why not just take a risk and be bold and go after what I really desired?
Oh, I love that so much. Yeah. And yes, those limiting beliefs that you're mentioning, I know that I tell my clients all the time, these are things that everyone, when you're going after your dreams, feels. But it's really nice to be able to hear from someone who's made it, who's created this dream life for herself, that she's also felt that. So I'm so glad that you're able to share that with all of us. Now, you mentioned a little bit about the difference between an action state and a being state, which I think is so relevant to time mastery. Tell us a little bit more about that and the influence of, the masculine and the feminine energies in business.
Exactly. And so being an engineer and a really high achiever, I always embodied a lot of masculine energy. Like, I could get stuff done. I could work. I have impeccable focus, and yoga was what really opened me up more to that feminine energy of being, of receiving, of releasing that chatter in the mind and really going within into your own intuition and connecting. Because when you're so caught up with the doing, and that's all you do, it's hard to hear what your intuition is saying. It's hard to be connected to that little voice within you. And I feel like when entrepreneurs, especially when you step out into that world of like going to, running your passion business and going to make money and get clients and all of this, it's like, it's easy to fall into the masculine because you just want to do and constantly be taking action. But here's the thing, when you're constantly taking action, you're constantly in that hustle state. It can, first of all, it can leave you burnt out. You can get frustrated. You don't rest your mind and connect with your soul as often. And so those limiting beliefs can really weave their way in there, and that inner critic might start to get louder. But when you start to implement more of the feminine in, and when you slow down and just start to connect, release the achievements and just connect to the essence of life itself and just enjoy life to enjoy life, not to try to just constantly be achieving. It helps your brain be able to really slow down, and it helps you to be able to connect with your own intuition and inner guidance system. And when you connect with your own intuition and you really trust yourself, because that really happens through that feminine and getting to know yourself, you are actually able to do your work so much faster. And so when you go back into the doing, because you need both, you need the feminine, you need that being, that creativity and the intuition, as well as the action, or else you're just sitting there daydreaming all day. But right. But when you take that feminine in and you're connected with your intuition, it makes the action easier. So you trust yourself. Like when you're writing a piece of content, rather than beating yourself up about how terrible you think you write and how it doesn't make sense and you can't connect with your audience, you actually trust yourself. Like, this is what I am called. This is what I need to say. The bulldogs have things to say too.
You guys, you have the cutest dogs, I must say. Like, that is totally fine. They can be a part of the interview too.
The one is mine and the other is her sister. They're of course they choose to wrestle right when I'm on here all day. But anyway, when you connect with your intuition, it's like you have that guidance. You just trust yourself. So instead of spending like an hour trying to perfect a piece of content, it just flows out. And it just saves so much time when you trust yourself, you don't second guess, and you don't waste all that time doubting. And that happens through that feminine.
You know what? It's like you are actually speaking to my soul, because something that I've been told, so I've recently got into a more spiritual side of entrepreneurship, and I've been told by so many of my mentors, you've got really masculine energy, which I like in the beginning I was like, what does that even mean? Like, I'm a girl, like what does that mean I have a masculine energy? But then they were saying, you're always obsessed with doing, you're obsessed with getting stuff done and getting your achievements like listed out there, but you're not connecting to your intuition and who you truly are. And something that I would always struggle with was that, the constantly hustling. We live in this culture that's kind of glorifying, all the 40-hour work weeks and spending all of this time like creating your dream life, especially with entrepreneurs who are still working. they've got to do their job, and then they've got to either wake up super early or stay up really late in order to get stuff done. But what's interesting is that that's what's glorified in our culture. And even though there is that little bit of a shift going towards, practicing self-care and looking after yourself, I think what's really interesting about what you said is that, we do need both. We need that balance of the masculine and feminine energies. And I think it's so cool because you mentioned, when you're trusting your intuition and you're trusting in your feminine energy, you save time because you're not like wasting time doubting yourself. That is literally me. And that is literally so many of the clients that I speak to, when we're writing a blog post, or even when we're about to do like a reel on Instagram and we're like, oh no, I need to start again because I sound ridiculous, and it ends up taking us like an hour to record something that's only meant to be 30 seconds. So I think that's really cool that you were saying like that tapping into that feminine energy could really help with that. What would you recommend that listeners do if they're brand new to this whole masculine feminine energy thing? How would they sort of tap more into their feminine side to help them with, their time mastery?
Yes, what I would suggest in order to tap more into your feminine is basically to just dive deeper into yourself. So releasing distractions, and really meditation and yoga are some of the greatest. Meditation as in literally releasing, like putting your phone away, not checking your email, like best if it's first thing in the morning. And I know it's hard not to check your phone, but just create a space just for yourself. You don't have no achieving, just literally just being. And you can put on calming music, maybe just like a 528 frequency or something like that. I found a really nice one. Can just put on calming music and just sit and be. And then you can journal as well, and just journal what is coming up. So you're starting to get to know yourself. Another big thing is have a designated checkout time for your work. As entrepreneurs, I know we can run our business 24/7, but if we're always having that constant input of like the Instagram, the Facebook, the checking our emails, or trying to see if, anyone sent us this or whatever, it just keeps us from ourselves, from literally having a checkout time and being like, I am done checking my phone. And then just going and doing something that you enjoy. Something like going for a walk, going to the pool, going to the beach. If you're near a beach, I'm not, but I wish. That was where I used to really connect with my soul the most. I'd go to the beach and I would just bring books. My phone had no service, and would just sit there and be with myself. And it helps you tap into yourself and to get to know yourself better.
That sounds so amazing. I miss the beach. We haven't been going as much, and now it's getting super cold here in Sydney. So I don't know if we're going to be going very much, but I used to do the same, bring a book, bring a journal, and then my phone would be like in the car so it wouldn't distract me. Oh, that sounds amazing. I feel like I need one of those days. Well, all of this stuff is really, really cool, Danielle, and I think it could make such a big difference in the lives of the listeners here who are either starting their own business or have been in business for a while. How have you found masculine and feminine energies in the workplace? So you've actually come from a corporate background. Do you find that it might be tougher in that kind of background to tap into both the masculine and the feminine?
Yes, I do feel it is more challenging because you're there for about 8-9 hours a day. But it's not impossible. So when I first became a yoga teacher, I was still working in corporate. So I was working as an engineer from 8 to 5, as well as teaching morning yoga classes twice a week at 6:30 a.m., as well as running a network marketing business, as well as doing my own yoga practice.
Oh, damn, that's amazing.
I know, right? And so what I would do is I had a non-negotiable of my meditation early in the morning. It didn't matter if I was going to be late to work, but I mean, obviously make sure you're not going to get in trouble. It was kind of flexible where I worked, but I would always get my 5-minute meditation. That's where I started. I started with 5-minute meditation with a song that I loved. Always, I'd made that as my priority. On the way to work, I might listen to, relaxing music or something I really enjoyed. Again, just finding more enjoyment, making the drive to work in traffic more enjoyable. And then get to work. I would do my work, but then during lunch was my time. And I actually would go to the gym and do yoga. And maybe people could find a conference room or take a walk or do something else during that lunch hour to just reconnect with themselves. And rather than just, you could sit down and converse with friends, but sometimes it's great to take that time for yourself and go do yoga, to go take a walk, read a book, journal, do your own thing. So finding that time in the pockets of the time. And then after work, I would go to yoga, reconnect with myself again, do a little bit of network marketing work. And then I would journal when I got home and just kind of have that sacred time for myself before bed.
I am obsessed with that. I love that you use the term non-negotiable. It's something that I tell everyone who will listen. It's, the idea for the listeners who don't know, it's essentially that. It's this idea that there is something in your life that is absolutely non-negotiable, that you, as best you can, plan around it. So in Danielle's case, it would have been, the 5-minute meditation. For me, I have a power morning. Every single morning, I will wake up earlier if I need to make it happen, even if it means that I'm up at 4 o'clock in the morning, because that's my non-negotiable. Because I know, I'm sure, Danielle, you would agree that without that non-negotiable, the rest of the day kind of just falls away from you. But when you've got, that thing that grounds you in the morning, or that thing that that helps you tune into yourself, everything else just feels easier, and everything else, like you said, is a bit more enjoyable, which is awesome. Now, I wanted to bring up that point you mentioned about, taking lunch breaks for yourself, or finding those little pockets of time. Because I know that when I was in, it wasn't really corporate, but I guess it's the closest that I've ever gotten to corporate. But I would have lunch breaks, and I would either feel obligated to sit in the lunchroom and chat to people. And then the next thing I knew, it'd be half an hour later and I'd have to go back to work, and I'd still feel so frazzled and I didn't feel like I got to relax. Or I would feel the need to be at my desk and working away because there was just so much to do. So I think this is, like what you said, is a real testament to our listeners who might still be in a job, to, that it's totally fine to take time for yourself to go for a walk. I know that we have a few retail workers who listen, take a walk around the malls, just have some time for yourself. I think that that's a really great message that you've got there, Danielle. Okay, let's shift the gears a little bit and talk a little bit more about time mastery. So what does being the master of your time mean to you?
Being the master of my time, let me see how to word this. It's such literally time mastery, self-mastery, when you come out into the entrepreneurial world, is so important. But time mastery means almost like self-integrity. Like you're the master of your day. So you plan out, you have your to-do list, and you get the things done, but you're also not overkilling yourself with a bunch of things. And so another thing that I mean by this is you master out your day, and you release the things that just waste your time. So the instant gratification of scrolling, of sleeping in too late, of just procrastinating. And when you actually can really master that time that you're given in the day and get the things done that you have on your list, that is fantastic.
Yeah, I love that so much. Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. I think a lot of the time, there's a reason why my business partner and I, Indiana, when we were trying to come up with a name for this podcast, I was so adamant about not talking about time management at all. I don't know if that's something you've experienced in the entrepreneurial world, but I've noticed that there's a shift away from talking about time management, because we don't want to be the managers of our life. We want to be the masters of our life. We want to be the ones creating and making the decisions, and not managing things as they come, but being the people that essentially pull all the strings. So I think what's really cool about your definition of time mastery in terms of self-integrity is, understanding, yes, there are all these things that I want to get done, but also that will only come if I release, and surrender the things that don't need to get done, like the scrolling and the staying in bed. Because so many people complain, oh, I just don't have enough time. But when I take people through this exercise, actually, where I get them to map out what they do in a week, and just roughly, they don't have to do 452 to the minute, but roughly how much time they spend checking their phone. Or one of my clients even said that she notices that she'll go take a shower, and she'll stand in her bathroom scrolling on Instagram, completely dressed and everything, but she was like, okay, I'll take a shower, but I'm just going to check this one thing. And then half an hour later, she still hasn't taken a shower, and she's just scrolling through Instagram, which is crazy to me, because she was like, oh, I just realized that half an hour went by, and it didn't feel like half an hour, because in my mind I was spending 2 minutes checking something. So I think that's really cool that you mentioned that, is to be a master of your time, is to understand, what do you need to let go of as well. Okay, and I have another question about time mastery. What would you feel like is the number one lesson about time you wish you could share with your past self?
What I would love to share with my past self about time. I've always been pretty good with time, but once I got into the entrepreneur, I actually found myself procrastinating a lot more. And a lot of that had to do with more of the fears and limiting beliefs, and the juggling the self-doubt and the negative self-talk. And it's just trust yourself, choose what you want and go for it, and trust yourself. And that saves so much freaking time. Another thing that really helps with time is releasing distractions. And maybe I did know this younger, but I think this is just one of my favorite things about managing your time. I love to talk about, but I'm kind of going the direction.
Yeah, go for it.
But one of the biggest things is release distractions and set time blocks. So if you have something to do and you really don't want to do it, just set a timer for like 20 minutes and do focus work with that. And you get so much stuff done. You can do more. Oh, here we go. One lesson. You can do more with less. You can do so much more with less time. And no matter how much time you give yourself, you will take it up. So whether you say you can finish this thing in 30 minutes or an hour, you will. You just choose how long you want to finish it in. And so that is one of the biggest things is to give yourself that time limit and be like, I'm going to finish this thing in 30 minutes and go for it. And you will. If you say an hour, you will take the whole hour. And always, every time I had deadlines, for some reason, I would always finish right on the deadline, but I would always finish. And I'm like, you know what? If I would have given myself an earlier deadline, I could have finished way earlier than the actual due date and had it ready.
Yes, there is an actual, I don't know if they call it a scientific principle. There's an actual principle that they talk about where this is a thing where like time expands to the container you give it, right? So if you give it an hour, I'm blanking right now, but I was literally just reading an article about it. But like if you give yourself an hour, even if it could take you 30 minutes, it will take you an hour, which is so interesting. And so, there was something I was going to say. And like you said something really, really interesting. And now I'm like, my mind is blanking. I don't know. We'll get there. That's all right. If it comes to me, it comes to me. And the last thing, since you are a mindset coach and you're all about, tackling those limiting beliefs and empowering women into getting into the best state possible, what do you believe is one belief about time that has been the most empowering for you?
You don't find time, you create it.
Oh, love that.
Yes, there are so many people, and including myself, I'm sure at some point it's been like, I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to build a business. I don't have time to follow my dreams. I don't have time to figure things out. And it's like, yes, you do. You get to choose and you get to create the time and make that a priority. Whether it's 5 minutes or whether it's 20 minutes, you can always create time, which is so freaking cool.
Yeah, that is interesting. Oh, okay. I think I remember what I was going to say. I was speaking to one of my mentors and she was saying that there's this idea that time as we see it doesn't really exist, that it's just like a way of measuring what we're experiencing. And this sounds like very spiritual and very woo-woo, but the way that she was describing it is we can always, like you said, create time. So you'll have the naysayers who'll be like, oh, I only have 24 hours. And yes, Beyonce also has 24 hours, but she has $1 million and 50 people around her to help her do the chores and do the grocery shopping, do all of that kind of stuff. But what's interesting is that exactly what you said is that when you care about something enough, when you prioritize it, you will always be able to create time for that. Because at the end of the day, this is why I made that shift away from time management. And I actually did a podcast episode about it, is that I believe time management doesn't exist because I believe it's truly priority management. Is that at the beginning of the day, right? At the beginning of the day, you think, okay, well, what is my top priority? Get that done. After that, what's my next top priority? And then at the end of the day, if you only get one thing done, you did the most important thing. So that day is still a success. So I think that's incredible. You don't find time, you create it. Oh, Danielle, that has been absolutely insightful for me. And I'm sure all of our listeners are like furiously wishing that they were taking notes or going to listen to this all over again with all of the wisdom you passed on. Is there anything else that you would like to share with our listeners about time mastery, about limiting beliefs that you think would absolutely change their life?
I would say, oh my goodness, Rowie just went crazy. Okay. Rowla, chill. I'll scratch their heads. They calm down when I scratch their heads. So
that's adorable.
With limiting beliefs, it is like, do your inner work. Find out what those limiting beliefs are and go to work or hire a mentor or do a course or something that's going to help you move through them, because the limiting beliefs actually take up a ton of time. If you're sitting there believing that you can't do it, or it's going to take you forever to do something, and all of these beliefs that just keep you stuck, like it's going to take you a lot more time. So if you want to really clear up your time, clear up those limiting beliefs. And if someone says they don't have time to clear up their limiting beliefs, well, they do.
That is so crazy. I didn't actually ever think of it that way. You're so right. Limiting beliefs take up so much time. The amount of time I've spent doubting, like in my earlier entrepreneur days, I would probably have spent more time doubting myself than I did actually doing the work, which is so interesting. So yes, if you feel like you have no time, start with your limiting beliefs. I love that. I'm obsessed with that. And Danielle, you did mention you have a little bit of a gift that you want to hand over to our podcast community today.
Yes, I have an ebook, a free ebook called Maximize Your Morning. It's the 3-step morning routine to upgrade your mindset and crush your goals faster. So in here, I really balance like your morning routine, the masculine and the feminine. It's a lot of the feminine practices, but I give you a lot of different options and kind of like 3 steps, but you can do the different options in there. So it's not like you have to do this step 1, have to do the step 2, step 3, but you get to create it in a way that feels good for you, because that's all about the feminine, doing things in a way that feels good for you. And I have the structure, but you get to choose how that looks. So it's amazing. It helps set yourself up for connecting with yourself. It helps you get, clear with your goals, and helps you feel empowered and excited to go after them.
That is amazing. I don't know why I have not read this yet. I am going to do that straight away. So we will put all the details of how to access that free ebook from Danielle in our show notes. But Danielle, thank you so much for joining us today. We so appreciate you being here. We're definitely going to get you on again for a future episode. And thank you everyone for listening. I hope you all have a fabulous day.
So that's a wrap. If you loved today's episode, leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and let us know why you loved it.
If you know someone who needs to hear this, then send it their way and share it to your stories, tagging us at Time Money Mastery.
Feel like you're wanting just a little more? Jump on over to our Facebook community. You can find the link in the show notes.
That's all from us today, fam. We'll see you soon.